With every government and introduction of new policies, businesses of all kinds and sizes seize the opportunity to evolve and redefine themselves. Business Point on Global Television is where we follow the money and put the facts and figures right in front of you. Watch Business Point every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. as Kikelamo Okeri tracks all the latest developments across critical sectors. Business Point. This is business.
Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here.
It's time for sports' biggest moments on Global Television. The headlines, scores, breaking news, and commentaries on sporty events. Talking with the biggest players, strikers, and about the slam dunks and goals, stunning saves, near misses, and upsets. Let's talk about the greatest home runs, comebacks, knockdowns, and victories. Talk sports with the king of sports, Anthony Momodou. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss out.
Is the desk on Global Television.
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodou on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians. We are the Canaan because
that this country gets it right.
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex. For an insightful idea that takes the center stage and the conversation that
Is the desk on Global Television.
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodou on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
we are the Palestinians. We are the Canaan because
That this country gets it right.
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex. For an insightful idea that takes the center stage and the conversation that gets beyond the headlines, to explore the lasting impact of political decisions, Big Talk got you covered. From policy debates to geopolitical insights, from thought-provoking discussions to actionable insight,
What is the real responsibility of government?
Big Talk delves deep into the heart of the matter. Join us weekdays on Global Televisions from 6:30 p.m. for a versatile journey into the heart of politics, where we dissect issues shaping our society.
In an ever-busy world, the increasing challenge of keeping track of health matters can be extremely demanding. Follow the latest health tips and trends on Health Guide on Global Television on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Health Guide on Global Television. Put your health first.
Are you a food lover? Do you care about your health and nutrition? Are you interested in exploring the diverse culinary traditions from around the world? Then look no further. Introducing Lunch Global on Global Television, a show that takes you on a delicious journey through the world of food, nutrition, and diet. So, whether you're a seasoned foodie, a health enthusiast, or simply curious about the world of food, Lunch Global has something for everyone. Tune in Mondays to Fridays and let your taste bud take you on a journey of flavor, culture, and discovery on Lunch Global. Bon appetit!
All right, welcome to the program. It's time for us on the desk where we look at issues making the rounds in Nigeria, across the globe, and of importance to mankind. On today's edition is no different, as we'll be looking at key issues playing out today. Is the 5th day of June 2024. And it's the World Environment Day. So we'll be kicking off with that talking point as we look at the world marking the 2024 edition of the Environment Day. All right, and I have in the studio my guest, who is not a person but Issa Ali Shatta, joining us live in the studio to help us look at the salient issues making the rounds. I guess most times you see him via Zoom, but today he's live in the studios. Nice to have you today. Welcome.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine.
All right, let's look at the World Environment Day celebrated across the globe. This year is to the trying to restore the ecosystem. For you, how key would you say today is talking about the World Environment Day and the fact that it's been celebrated across the globe? Do you think Nigeria has done enough to protect its own ecosystem?
Yeah, I think I would say we are trying our best. If you want to, look at the core harsh economy realities, those in the rural areas, I don't think you can preach to them not to fall those trees and use them as firewood. Well, and for us, for those of us who defecate, the street. The street, open defecation. Right? Open defecation. Yeah. And I think Nigeria is ranked as, one of the worst countries, in the world with open defecation after India. So the problem is, like I said, if you look at the harsh economy reality, there's so much that a lot of people might not be able to, adhere to, based on, the current harsh condition. A lot of people are not even thinking about the environment and thinking about their stomach. What Fayose would call stomach infrastructure. That's exactly what everybody is looking at right now. But I think it's something that we should take very seriously. If you look at even the sea, we are talking about the blue economy. We are talking about the blue ocean and the rest. So we really need to ensure that our environments are well kept and try to inculcate artificial intelligence in also clearing some of these things on our waterways. We have all of them, all of what you probably might call the plastics and the rest, and also even our own discipline. You see somebody take plastic water driving and they just throw it on the street. That's really a bad habit, right? Even if you had people who are clearing those streets, on a daily basis, you still need to give at least respect to those who are, working day and night to ensure that the environment is kept clean. And at the same time, how often do we also practice fumigation? I used to remember back then during the days of El-Rufai as the FCT minister, they used to fumigate the atmosphere at a particular point in time. So, but there's so much that we need to do not to destroy the ozone layer, just to keep the environment clean and ensure that, we are breathing, the fresh oxygen.
You talked about the issue of the economy and the harsh reality, why it might be difficult for people to adhere to these guidelines of things that will protect the environment. Would you say the United Nations international community, because recently we had the COP28 where the climate change was the focus, certain funds were earmarked for the African continent. Do you think enough funds is being channeled to countries like Nigeria, emerging economies, to be able to fight the issue of climate change, especially with also the strict guidelines given for these funds to be assessed?
I don't think enough is being done, but the truth is, just like Dangote said, I think a couple of days ago, where he said Africans can only, solve their own problem with their own indigenous solutions. That's exactly what we need to be looking at. Trust me, you see, there is that slogan or that statement that was said sometimes back where they said Nigeria is too rich to be poor and Nigeria is too poor to be rich. It's a of some sort. But if you look at it, it means we are not harnessing all our resources together to, achieve greatness. And that also goes down to leadership. So at what point do we, analyze all of these channels that you just mentioned that are available, and how do we really present ourselves also to the international community to be able to access, all of these funds? Because data is critical. In a situation where we are unable to give them real actionable data or real actionable intelligence, there's little or nothing that the international community can do. And if you also look at it, that is also one of the Sustainable Development Goals objectives. And I don't think we are really working as seriously towards that to ensure that we meet that goal, just like every other goal that we have on that Sustainable Development Goal for United Nations.
In terms of Nigeria, as we wrap up on this talking point, which of the regions do you think deserves more attention in terms of the environment, restoration of the environment as we celebrate the environment? We see the northern region, the southeast, where erosion seems to have eaten up most of the roads and communities are divided.
I think all the regions, because every region has its own peculiarity. Just like you alluded, if you take north, for instance, you will see desert encroachment. That tells you the numbers of activities that are happening when I was talking about deforestation, right? Where we are supposed to be promoting afforestation, right? But if you look at the south, just like you have also mentioned, the topography, it's something that you can't really quantify when it comes to erosion, right? When you also talk about even the Atlantic Ocean, I talked about clearing the waterways of plastics and the rest. Also look at the Niger Delta area where, pollution from oil, and has actually affected, their waters. So we need to give, specific attention to specific region based on the peculiarity that exists in these regions.
All right, let's just a final wrap up to it. In terms of the people, in terms of sensitization, how would you score the sensitization part of government to the people to truly understand that there's need for them to protect and restore the ecosystem? Because most people will feel like there's no need. And that's why you see people chew plastic bottles, like you rightly pointed out, even while driving.
Yeah, not just that. You see, we have a problem in Nigeria where we have the same government and the same government ministries, MDAs. Unfortunately, they always work as if they are not in the same country. And you'll be shocked at what I'm about to mention, right? Do you know the current Minister of Environment? Okay. So that is the first.
We had them switch lanes at a point.
Yes, I know, but do you know the current Minister of Environment? So that goes to tell you about awareness drive, enlightenment. To what extent has that ministry performed? How have they really tried, to take Nigerians from all stakeholders, critical stakeholders, who are supposed to support them? And this is where I talk about interagency network. One, what is National Orientation Agency doing? What is the Ministry of Mines, right, doing? Because all of them work hand in hand. What is Ministry of Agriculture doing?
But it looks like Mines seem to be more active.
Yeah, Mines is active. Yes, I know they are going after illegal mining and all of that. But then those illegal miners that have already destroyed, some of these sites have also affected the environment. Some time back, I was watching a documentary in Osun State, right, where miners have come to desecrate, the entire community. And the communities don't even have access road to get to their community any longer because of the activity of miners. So you can see that there's an interrelated activities that is supposed to be taking place between government agencies or ministries. That was the reason why I said sometimes you see some of these ministries work as if they are not children of the same father and mother.
All right, let's move on to the next talking point. We'll be looking at one key issue making the rounds, no doubt, just to move in something just happened in the last 30 plus minutes across the globe where the the Prime Minister of India, in the person of Narendra Modi, has resigned his position. Modi submitted his resignation to the India's President Mumu after his cabinet recommended the dissolution of the lower house of parliament, Lok Sabha. Accepting his resignation, President Mumu requested that Modi continue in office until the new government is formed, according to the official of the resignation as part of the protocol followed before formation of the new government. Let's look at Modi's reign as the Prime Minister of India. At a point, he seemed to have taken India to the next level, almost making India one of the semi-world powers or emerging very strong economies that were playing with the superpowers of the world. Then somewhere along the line, things went south for Modi. Do you think it was orchestrated, or Modi simply lost his way somewhere along the line?
You see, in leadership, right, and in governance, there's always interest. And beyond the self-interest, there are also collective interests. Now, there will be a point where other people's interests are actually not, taken along. And those interests will begin to fall a force against you, and that becomes the voice of the opposition. And that is exactly where you begin to have problems and challenges, despite even the successes that you may have achieved in office. Yes, the people or the ordinary man on the street might be feeling the impact that you have brought in, but the political gladiators or the political actors might not really be feeling that impact because their own selfish interest is not covered in the entire agenda or the scheme of things that you have brought, right? So for Modi, I think it's honorable, for him to resign. How many of Nigerian ministers have you ever seen that resign? I think one, whom I respect so much. The former Minister of Power under Jonathan, Professor Batinaji, who resigned. I think that's the only person I can say have resigned in Nigeria. But back to India. India has actually done tremendously well in the last 1 decade. And I can tell you that in the area of technology, they have developed tremendously in every facet. They've succeeded in creating an ecosystem that is competitively competing against China. And they are one of the fastest growing economy, right, in the world. And that's why you see that most of the technological advances or even softwares or hardwares that we acquire today in Africa come either from China or from India, right? So that goes to tell you how much investment that they have actually done in that aspect. Even in the area of agriculture, you can see there's significant improvement in agricultural activities in India, with mechanized farming, modern day technology farming with artificial intelligence, right? Backed. Then at the same time, even in their education as well, you can see that the manner health. Little do you see most Nigerians travel from here, to India to seek for health needs. So in every aspect of their different verticals of their economy, I think Modi has done tremendously well. And like I said, he just fell out from, political gladiators because of their own selfish interest.
But do you think this, some say this might be the end of his political career? Do you see that's happening?
I don't think so. Modi has actually formed international alliances. He has a lot of friends beyond the continent of Asia. And he's a man that is well respected and a man with experience. So I see him contributing more at the international stage. I won't be surprised if I see him contributing at the decks of United Nations or even other international organizations who want to tap from his experience and see how they can leverage on development, most especially modern day development.
All right, let's move back to Nigeria and let's talk NLC. Looking at NLC might consider 100,000 naira new national minimum wage. The next talk now is that organized labor may settle for 100,000 naira as the tripartite committee on it has 5 days to seal a deal. For you, do you think 100,000 naira is a fair deal on the part of Nigerian workers?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's if the federal government, even at the end, accepts. And do you think Labour is also probably shooting itself on the foot, because the way they had pushed the federal government to the corner, probably they should have requested for more, because they might not have this opportunity to have the federal government at their beck and call the way they did with this strike action?
Yeah, you see, it's a very dicey situation. If we want to analyze it critically using the economic indices, right, it will not favor the workers. Trust me. And I can explain that to you. One, you can see that even as part of the agreement that they reached with federal government was to say that any worker who participated in this struggle will not be victimized. Okay. And at the same time, there won't be mass retrenchment. Because typically what happens is, whenever your running cost is high, you definitely want to cut costs by doing what? By downsizing, right? And that's exactly what private sectors are going to be doing right now. A lot of people are going to be losing their jobs if, we have a minimum wage that is higher, even higher than this. And the reason is not far-fetched, Anthony. Look, I think if I were in government, what we would have been looking at differently is not increasing minimum wage significantly. What we will be doing is try to be as honest as possible, right, to subsidize those basic items that people, go to buy. If you go to the market today and you hear the prices of food items, right, you will be shocked to your bone marrow. And for me, it's so shocking that almost on a by a weekly basis or on a weekly basis, the prices keeps increasing. So I ask a fundamental question: what exactly is that trigger that is making everybody in the market to increase their prices arbitrarily? So to the point, there needs to be like a price control.
Don't you think that's where the government is actually getting it wrong? The fact that they don't want to agree to set up price control boards.
Yeah.
As a mechanism to resolve this?
I think there should be that level of price control, because for me, I even see it more like an act of sabotage, right? But even if you're trying to sabotage the government, look at the ordinary people that are actually feeling the brunt. They are not in government, right? The 70% of Nigerians are wage earners. So even when we talk about minimum wage, what is the percentage of the Nigerians that are going to enjoy the minimum wage? That is the question you should be asking yourself. So the fundamental crisis, which I have always, mentioned, I don't want to sound like a broken record, is the removal of fuel subsidy.
Do you think the reversing of that decision, is it impossible?
It's not impossible.
So why is the government not thinking towards that direction?
It's not impossible because if you look at it, let me give you some analysis. Before the removal of fuel subsidy, the FAC allocation, which is federal allocation, right, to state government and federal government and local government, was, I think, around 700 to about 800 billion on a month-on-month basis. Now it's about almost 1.3 to 1.4 trillion. Now ask yourself fundamental question: what are the states doing with those money that they have that is in excess now? Because you hear like a state like Kaduna comes and tells you that they are unable to even pay salary because of the debt reservicing, right, in the state, even though they have increased. So I don't really envy them as well, right? Because if you look at at the time they went to get that loan, look at the exchange rate at that time, but look at the exchange rate now, and look at the percentage of what they are paying back, right? So you can see that between the time they collected that fund and the time that they are paying back, the exchange rate is about almost 200 to 300% increase, percentage increase, right? So there is a whole lot that has gone, wrong with both policies of, the currency and the removal of fuel subsidy. And this is where fundamentally our problem is coming from. Nigeria, like I've always said, is a consuming nation. We largely depend on importation. And as long as we depend on importation, there's going to be pressure on your FX, your Forex. When there's pressure on your Forex, it further depletes your reserve. And at the same time, it doesn't give that flow of balance for demand and supply in terms of Forex. Why? Again, because we have benchmarked our economy with dollarization of the economy. So if we can really, and like I said, I don't really envy this government, they really need to sit down and be honest with themselves, because we have borrowed more money now in the last 1 year than the last 4 years of this current administration. Why? Because of even what they met on ground. So what is the window or the channel of our revenue generation? That is very important. That's the reason why you have seen that the president has asked the Minister of Finance to go and do a cost-benefit analysis and see if the government will be able to shoulder, the proposed amount that we don't know yet, but people are insinuating 100,000 naira. If the workers get 100,000 naira, hurrah for them. But at the same time, what is the purchasing power of an average Nigerian?
But is the presidency being honest? We know when they want to purchase cars and other things, we don't hear them say, go do cost analysis to know if they can carry the burden. They just go ahead and spend these monies. So why is it when it comes to the Nigerian worker, they now want to play like they're being very shrewd with the finances of the government? Doesn't that show insincerity on the part of the government?
If I told the line with you from what you said, I would not be objective. And
no,
I'll tell you why.
But we see that happen when
I'll tell you why. Why I said I won't be objective.
For instance, the aircraft, the presidential aircraft, when they had issues, they quickly just said they made alternative.
Yes,
and they were supposed to get approvals from the National Assembly. But did they do that? They didn't.
I understand. Beyond sentiment and emotions, yes, we can say that the government is insensitive towards the plight of the ordinary
Changing
man.
the national anthem was done in a flash.
Yeah, that doesn't involve any naira and kobo.
No, but what I'm saying, when he has
speed,
to do
I understand the speed at which
they do it in a flash.
I perfectly understand. You see, the vehicle that was purchased was one-off. It's not something that is recurring. But salaries are going to be recurring. That was the reason why I told you about overhead. When your overhead goes up, the next thing you want to do is to downsize. Now, let me tell you what is currently happening in the banking sector. In the private, that is the private sector. CBN has increased the bank capitalization, right?
Okay, yeah.
The share capitals. Now, as I'm talking to you, almost on a weekly basis, the banks are retrenching. As I speak to you, why? Because for a typical bank, they will do their own cost-benefit analysis and see where the excess funds are going to, as far as they are concerned. If it is in overhead, they begin to cut costs so that they are mopping off their cash to meet up with that capitalization, right? It's the same thing that will happen in government. Because, one, it will be extremely difficult, for the ministries and NDAs to recruit. Because when they look at the overhead and they see that their budget, the recurring cost, right, at even triple or quadruple their capital expenditure. So their budget will no longer look attractive to be approved, right? So it's going to affect a lot of things. So yes, you are looking at it that is 100,000. Don't forget that the 100,000 is the base. So it's going to be graduated. So somebody who is earning 100,000 today, right, will not be earning 100,000 again, because the person on level 1 or level 2 is now earning 100,000 as a minimum wage. Then, which means a level 8, there's a way they calculate it, on a grade by grade basis, and they apply all of those percentages as they progress. 25% here, 15%. There's a whole mathematics, that goes on with this. So if you look at it, there's going to be a lot of, in fact, don't be surprised that they are going to say they are passing a supplementary budget, just to cushion, the effect for this increase. And like I said, should we really be increasing? Because if you increase, forget that the ordinary woman in the market, you can think that they don't know what is going on. Immediately they hear that they have increased salaries, they go back again to increase their prices. And look at the inflation rate we have. It has skyrocketed, especially food inflation. So, and that is going to even get worse immediately this minimum wage is passed as well.
All right. Very, very interesting talking point there. We're still looking at issues. Let's now look at what's playing out as regards the lawmakers' pay is what we're talking about next, as the House of Reps attack NLC and TUC. The House of Representatives has attacked organized labor comprising the NLC and the TUC over feeding the public about what he described as fake earnings of its members. It said that the attempt was made to stoke public resentment against the lawmakers and undermine the credibility of the legislature. It warned that such acts could stoke public resentment against them, calling for the actors sabotaging the nation's economy to be brought to justice. Are they being honest or being fair?
They are not being honest. I watched Indume, the senator from Borno State.
Yeah.
I think representing Goza constituency in Borno State one time, came on TV and said it clearly that yes, they benefit and there are certain privileges that comes to them. He was honest, and I like that, right? He was honest about what comes to them. He said, but you see, all of these more funds that comes to us still goes back to the people, because by the time we go back to our constituency, they come and ask us for things, and we need to be able to, to continue to feed them. So it is how we have structured, right, our democracy. And that's the reason why a lot of loopholes exist in other climes.
So that people can benefit from these loopholes.
Yes, paddy business. The stomach infrastructure that Fayose was talking about. In other climes, you will be the one that is contributing to the economy. Trust me, if they remove all these unnecessary allowances or they remove all these constituency projects from National Assembly, nobody will contest to go for House of Reps or Senate, because there's no incentive any longer going there. Your primary objective is to go and make law. So if your primary objective is to go and make law and you are paid per sitting, and you are also paid according to the minimum wage that the civil servants also earn, or maybe they just add a little fraction on it because, okay, fine, you are representing a constituency. They will make it very unattractive. Nobody will want to contest. And if it happens, it's going to be a surprise for me. It means the end of time is near, right? So I don't think that any administration will want to turn that scenario around. Right. But if they do that, you will see that it's only serious-minded people who have earned legitimately and want to contribute back to the society that will come to an. So that at that time you see that it is going to be a serious business. They will just be serving as an oversight, as opposed to them going to collecting constituency projects and implementing it. But they will tell you that they are only influencing those projects to their constituency, for their people.
All right, let's quickly run to the next talking point. For the want of time, we're looking at electricity hike as the NLC. Labour says it's disappointed with the silence of the federal government as regards plans to reverse the electricity hike. Do you think it's deliberate by the federal government not to say anything concerning the electricity hike? Labour is also calling for reversal to 65 naira per kilowatt. Is it impossible since Nigerians are not even getting the supply?
Anthony, you see, when you listen too much to outsiders and you go cap in hand with plates and begging for food outside, you are going to be doing the bidding of the person feeding you. There was a time when Femi Falana, he didn't insinuate, he made a fundamental statement and said that the federal government is planning on increasing electricity tariff because IMF told them to do that, to increase the tariff, right, because of the excessive funds that we have collected. And so that, yes, so he said most of the policies that you are seeing are as a result of the advice that we get from IMF and World Bank. And like a soothsayer, 2 to 3, 4 weeks down the line, we got the shocking news right? There was an increase, and we had all of those hula baloo and controversies around band A, band B, band C. Some people say they don't even know the band they belong to, if it's band Z, because they don't even see the electricity in the first place, right? So it's a chicken and egg scenario where you see you always go and collect funds. So there are parameters and there are also conditions that you have to meet when you get those funds in, because they have benchmarked those funds against certain numbers, right? Certain tweaks. And they have also made projection, or you and them have made projection based on how you are going to be repaying back those funds and the windows and channels where you are going to be getting those funds to come in, right? So invariably, it's like robbing Peter
to pay
and paying Paul.
So it becomes impossible for reversals.
Exactly.
All right, let's see how that's going to pan out. Let's take you to Kaduna State, where the Kaduna House of Assembly has made its report known after the investigation of the former governor of the state, Nasir El-Rufai, and has come out that El-Rufai, the loans he did collect were not used for what it was meant for, and thus has recommended for the prosecution of the former governor of Kaduna State. Did you see this coming? And do you think Sani Uba Sani, the governor of Kaduna State, the House of Assembly, the judiciary, and the Nigerian police force have the political will to carry this recommendation to the latter?
I like the question. I don't see that happening. I mean, of course, you know that this is the beginning and the end of this entire statement. I don't see that really happening.
Why?
Yeah,
because some people have said Uba Sani and El-Rufai at loggerheads technically, so he might want to carry out these recommendations.
So, you see, in politics, there's no permanent friend, there's no permanent enemy. There's just permanent interest, right, in politics. And why I say I don't really see this happening is you've not heard the governor come out to make any public statement concerning this, unlike what we are seeing in Rivers State, right, where the governor and the past governor have been throwing, and trailing, words. That has not happened in Kaduna State. What has happened is, as a result, what we have seen now is a result of an investigation that has taken place. Whether that investigation was done thoroughly and people were given fair hearing, we don't know, right? Because we are not part of it. Wasn't also publicized as well. So I know that they said they invited some people who served under the previous administration, and some of them are even in this current administration as we speak.
But the accusations is a money laundering and abuse of office.
Yeah, so we need to have evidences. You see, when you accuse me of money laundering, Anthony, money laundering doesn't just happen, right? It goes through a channel of financial institution. Can you show us the flow of funds that was laundered from point A to point B, right, or to point Z, as the case may be? So, and if that is the case, EFCC is supposed to come into this matter. Yes, as well, because there will be evidences before them. So it means EFCC does not even need to do any homework any longer, because the committee have already done the findings, the recommendations are there, the findings are there. So they present it as an evidence before EFCC, then EFCC moves in to do their job. Just the way we are hearing the one for Yahaya Bello as well.
All right, so if this is carried out by Uba Sani, how do you think the people would perceive it? If he decides to carry forth with, because he made the statement to say he couldn't pay salaries.
Yes, I mentioned it earlier.
Yes. So shouldn't that be enough, reason for him to carry out this investigation?
Well, like I said, there's even if there is a discord between the two political actors, right? From the way I've seen things happen, I don't necessarily think Uba Sani will come out publicly to show, even if he has that intention. It might be happening back doors. I mean, he'll be using proxies, to fight the war. I don't necessarily see him coming out to fight the war. He probably might be using proxies. But like I've said earlier, you see, it's a very dicey situation as well. I know that people didn't really like, El-Rufai, because they usually see his style as very unpopular, because he is vocal and very outspoken, right? But for those of us who know Kaduna State, I can tell you for free that in terms of infrastructure, there was actually that level of infrastructure that was done in Kaduna State, especially in the quality of the work that was done as well in Kaduna State. So to the point where they said there was money laundering or misappropriation or abuse of office, they need to specify all of that. Like I said, they need to specify clearly what they mean and how they where they got all of those facts for. But for me, what I've seen physically, and if you can ask anybody who is familiar with Kaduna State, there has been massive presence of infrastructure in terms of, in fact, what El-Rufai did, they've never had such development in terms of the infrastructure activities that he took when he was the governor of Kaduna State. Even the quality of the bridge. I know one of these bridges that he constructed along Kawu Road, Makarfi did that, I think, in 2000 and 2003. If you had seen that bridge, right? That bridge was commissioned at that time over, I think, ₦1 billion. That was a sham. But look at what El-Rufai gave them now. You can see that it's a modern day bridge that can last for years. That bridge that the previous governor, did, right? Heavy trucks can't climb that bridge. So what kind of bridge is that? Right. So that goes to tell you about the quality of work that was done before versus what was done during El-Rufai's time. But like I said, it's good to be fair, square and fair. Present the evidences before Nigerians. Let's see how the money was laundered from point A to point B. Nigerians are intelligent, right? We are smart people. So present your facts and people will peruse it.
Okay, so indirectly you're saying you do not trust the report of the House of Assembly?
No, I'm saying that they should be transparent with it. Let's see the details. Let's not just read, caption on pages of newspaper. Let's see the details of what was done, and let's see how they perpetrated, all of this crime.
All right, let's move on quickly. Let's talk about the Minister of Finance, in the person of Wale Edun, who disclosed in a recent presentation of Accelerated Stabilization and Advancement Plan, ASAP report, saying that in 2024, 5.4 trillion naira is being expended for subsidy. This is interesting. So subsidy expenditure, 5.4 trillion. How do we trust this APC government? In one breath, they tell us subsidies out. Now they're telling us projected for 2024 subsidy expenditure is going to cost 5.4 trillion naira.
For those of us who are following the numbers, know that it is practically impossible for us to be buying fuel at the current price that we are buying today because of the exchange rate. Now, if that is the case, who is bearing the difference? It's a rhetorical question. So, drilling closely with this, I think Nigerians are no longer surprised, and I'll tell you why. Do you remember when the previous administration came and we were told that fuel subsidy has been removed? Then there was, I've forgotten the word the former Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, used to reintroduce the fuel subsidy, right? But certainly we got that, announcement again that they are paying subsidy until May 29th, 2003, when the president in his inaugural speech said subsidy is gone. And now the finance minister is telling us that fuel subsidy has gulfed 5.4 trillion naira. So what's the difference between the previous administration and the current administration? There's no difference. It's just that there are different characters making the statement, but the same scenario still exists.
But is this not enough to cause civil unrest in terms of the insincerity of the government? Because if you're paying subsidy, you could as well pay everything and prevent Nigerians from going through this suffering.
I don't think they will. The reason why I think they even make this public is if there's any potential increase, let Nigeria know that, actually subsidy has been paid. I think El-Rufai even mentioned it some couple of months back and said that this current government is paying for subsidy, right? And a lot of people have also, and like I said, those of us who are in the financial space, we know that if you go through the figures and the numbers, you definitely know that somebody is paying for the difference. And I don't think anybody is magnanimous enough outside Nigeria to help us pay for that difference. Of course, the federal government is paying for that difference right now. If not, things would have even gotten worse than it is at the moment.
All right, let's end the show on a lighter note, using the FCT minister as the character in this story, where it said that there was drama when the FCT minister was on Wike on Tuesday, caused a mild drama as he ordered permanent secretaries in his ministry to bow before President Bola Tinubu. Wike issued the order during the inauguration of the arterial road number 20, named after Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka in Abuja. The minister ordered the PAMSECs to leave their seats and bow before Tinubu as a show of appreciation for their appointment. Wike directive led to a widespread laughter among the audience. Speaking, Wike said most of them have never dreamt in their lives that they will ever get to the peak of their careers. So if you permit me, I don't know those beneficiaries, the PAM secretaries. I don't know whether they are here. Come out, and you have is this not the highest level of psychophancy, and is this not disrespectful, to say the least? You see, this is not a private enterprise. Is the position or even the presidency? It's not like it's his birthright. Nigerians voted him in, so it's not like he's not doing his fellow Nigerians a favor by appointing them. Were they appointed based on favor and not because they had the capacity or because they are qualified? Okay, so if we take away the shenanigans, yes, that took place, I think if the minister had presented it maybe in a more serious at a more serious light, without necessarily asking the PAMSECs to come and take a bow as if they are before a court of law, right? Or they are bowing to a chief judge. But making that statement to say most of them in their lives, yes, that was derogatory. Yes, that's why I said away from the shenanigans or the drama or the melodrama or the comedy that took place. You know that FCT has now been given their statutory right to have a civil service, right? Now, because they've been given that right to be functional, to have a civil service commission, right? Which means they definitely will also have their different ministries under the Civil Service Commission, right? So that is probably what has necessitated this PAMSEC to come in. That was why he said none of them would have dreamt, to be PAMSEC because of, maybe in FCT we used to have just one PAMSEC, right? So all of them put together probably wouldn't have been able to be PAMSEC, but because of the new autonomy that has been given to FCT, that has given them that privilege to reach that, epic of their careers. But it was just the way and manner it was presented. That's why I said if it was properly explained, to Nigerians, they would have understood the context of where the FCT minister is coming from. I'm not the spokesperson of the minister. It sounded like one. No, but aside that, in terms of the psyche of this person, if the other governments failed to do the right thing, and you do the right thing, it's like you commission a road and you want them to praise you for commissioning a road, which is something every sane government should have done. Should you be praised for getting the job done? Yeah, so that is it's not a very wrong mentality. It is the culture, right? It is, unfortunately, it is the culture and the things we have come to inherit, in our immediate community. You see, our leaders are the product of the society. And if you look at what the society is about today, it's about psychophancy. Anthony,
if today, let me be practical with you, if today you are given an appointment, that is when you will know that every of your colleagues here in this station are your friends. But if anything happens to you, you become an orphan. You understand? It's the same thing that happened. Look at, I mean, even use the president as an example. Immediately they swore in the new president, including the media. The camera pans to the new president, and nothing happens with the previous president again. Just seconds after, handing over. And that is how, the Nigerian society is. Everybody is all about the materialism, positions, and all of that. Nobody is really looking at content. Nobody is really looking at, qualification. Nobody is really looking at those who are, who are experienced.
Integrity,
integrity is no longer there, right? It's just show of shame. And all these things cascade, all through our, institution of socialization, right from home, honestly speaking.
All right. Well, it's a very interesting way to wrap up the conversation. Issa Aliu Shatta, I want to say thank you very much for joining us in the live studios and for your very in-depth analysis of all the talking points.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
All right, that's how we're going to call it a wrap on today's edition of the program, The Desk on Global Television. My name is Anthony Momodu saying thank you for joining me on today's edition. And special thanks to our guests in the person of Issa Aliu Shatta, who has been super amazing with very balanced analysis of all the talking points we looked at on today's edition. Let's do this again tomorrow. Good evening.